Welcome back to my channel, drama lovers. Today we're diving into a wild tale from Boise, Idaho, a story of betrayal, revenge, and a father's fight for his daughter. Meet Jack Sullivan, a blue-collar electrician with a dark past as Lucas Kane, unraveling his ex-wife Rachel's lies and her shady new husband Greg Palmer's scams. When Greg blocks Jack from his daughter Emma's life, Jack unleashes Operation Eclipse, a plan that shakes their world. Will Jack win Emma back, or lose her forever? Grab your popcorn, hit that like button, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories. Jack Sullivan's rough hands gripped the ivory envelope, its smooth surface alien in the dim light of his cluttered Boise, Idaho apartment. The gold-embossed script declared his daughter Emma's 25th birthday gala at Silver Fork Tavern, a trendy spot on the Boise River where Jack hadn't set foot since his ex-wife. Rachel shattered their 19-year marriage for Greg Palmer, a charismatic real estate developer whose charm masked a ruthless streak. 8 years had passed since Rachel's confession, her voice trembling as she admitted she'd fallen for Greg's promises of wealth and status, leaving Jack's modest electrician's income in the dust. The betrayal cut deeper than Jack cared to admit, a wound that throbbed as he traced Emma's name on the invitation, her elegant handwriting a painful reminder of the girl who once adored him. He dropped the envelope onto the scarred coffee table, the silence of his one-bedroom home broken by the faint drip of a leaky faucet. At 51, Jack retained the wiry strength of his youth, built from years wiring homes and, long before, a life he'd erased. He hadn't always been Jack Sullivan, the quiet electrician who coached Little League and fixed neighbors' outlets for free. Once he was Lucas Kane, a name that sent shivers through elite circles, a strategist who dismantled empires with calculated precision. Bank accounts drained, reputations shredded, lives upended without a trace. Lucas had vanished when Jack met Rachel at a Boise diner, her warm smile and quick wit convincing him to bury his past for a chance at family. Emma's birth had sealed that choice, her tiny hand gripping his finger as he swore to be the father she deserved. But Rachel's departure had unraveled it all. 8 years ago, she'd taken Emma, then 17, to Greg's glittering world of luxury condos and private clubs, spinning tales of Jack's unstable nature and wasted potential. Emma's visits had dwindled, her calls growing curt, her last one a year ago echoing Greg's disdain. "You were holding us back, Dad." Jack poured a bourbon, the amber liquid swirling in the glass as memories clawed at him. The doorbell pierced the stillness. Jack checked his phone's security app. Cole Ramsey, his only link to the old days, stood outside, his grizzled face lit by a knowing smirk. Jack opened the door open. "Got the same invite, huh?" Cole said, waving an identical envelope. Jack gestured him inside, pouring another bourbon. "Emma called me," Jack said, his voice low, almost lost in the creak of the floorboards. "Said she needs me there." Cole sank into a faded recliner, eyeing Jack skeptically. "You believe her? Or is this Rachel and Greg's way of rubbing their perfect life in your face?" Jack's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening around the glass. "My daughter wouldn't lie to me." Cole snorted, sipping his drink. "The same Emma who hasn't shown up in a year? Who swallowed Greg's line that you're a dead-end nobody?" Jack's eyes drifted to a photo on the shelf. Emma at 14, beaming beside him at a Boise River festival, her hazel eyes alight with joy as they'd raced to catch the fireworks. "Rachel poisoned her," he said, his voice edged with steel. "Filled her head with lies about me. Now Emma's 25 throwing a gala with Greg's rich buddies." Cole leaned forward, his voice dropping. "You sure you want to step into their arena? Greg's not just a real estate hotshot. He's got connections, power. And Rachel's not the small-town girl you married anymore." Jack's grip on the glass tightened, the bourbon trembling. "I know exactly who they are." After Cole left, Jack knelt by a loose floorboard under his desk, prying it open to reveal a hidden steel box. Inside lay the remnants of Lucas Kane, encrypted USBs, forged passports, and a burner phone untouched for 12 years. His fingers hesitated before powering it on, the screen glowing faintly. Old instincts flared as he dialed a single number. A gravelly voice answered. "This line's gone cold." Jack's voice was steady. "The wolf hunts where the shadows fall." A long pause. "Lucas? Thought you were dead." "Not yet, Vincent," Jack replied. I need intel. Discreet. He hung up, locking the box away. Just a precaution, he told himself. But the ghost of Lucas Kane lingered, ready to rise. Jack Sullivan adjusted his tie, the worn fabric of his only suit chafing against his neck as he stepped into the warm glow of Silver Fork Tavern on Boise's riverfront. The gala for Emma's 25th birthday buzzed with Boise's nouveau riche, real estate brokers, tech startups, and car dealers mingling under string lights, their laughter grating against Jack's nerves. 8 years ago, this was a dive bar where he and Rachel shared beers. Now, it was Greg Palmer's stage, a monument to the life Rachel had chosen over their modest home. Jack's electrician boots felt heavy on the polished wood floor, each step a reminder of the world he'd been exiled from since Rachel left him for Gregis Wealth. The invitation in his pocket, Emma's plea for his presence, burned like a fragile hope, but the opulence around him whispered doubt. Security guards flanked the entrance, their earpieces glinting as they scanned guests. Jack approached, his name barely audible over the jazz quartet. Jack Sullivan, he said, offering his ID. The guard's eyes narrowed, tapping a tablet. Not on the list, he muttered, then paused, glancing at a second guard who nodded reluctantly. Fine, go through. Jack endured their stares, his calloused hands clenching as he stepped into the crowd. Crystal glasses clinked, and the scent of expensive cologne hung heavy. He accepted a champagne flute from a waiter, scanning for Emma, but his eyes found Rachel first. She stood near a faux fireplace, her once natural beauty sharpened by subtle surgeries, and a silk dress that cost more than Jack's monthly rent. Her laugh, bright but brittle, echoed as she charmed a group of Greg's associates. Jack's chest tightened. He knew that laugh, the one she used to hide her nerves. A young woman approached, her smile warm amidst the sea of pretense. Mr. Sullivan, Maya Torres, Emma's friend from Boise State. Her dark eyes held sincerity. She talks about you a lot. Jack's grip on the glass eased. All bad, I bet, he said, half joking, half dreading her answer. Maya hesitated. No, she misses you. Said you taught her to rewire a lamp and balance a checkbook. Jack's throat tightened, a flicker of pride breaking through his guarded heart. How's she holding up in this? He gestured to the glitz. Maya's smile faded. She's happy, I think, but Greg's world, it's intense. He controls everything, even who Emma sees. Rachel, too. Jack's jaw clenched. And Rachel? Maya lowered her voice. She's different, keeps up appearances, but there's tension. Greg's not as perfect as he seems. Before Jack could press further, the crowd parted, and Emma appeared. Her hazel eyes, so like his own, widened as she spotted him. She wore a silver dress, her engagement ring glinting, a gift from her boyfriend, no doubt one of Greg's circle. Dad? She said, her voice soft but uncertain, crossing the room. Jack's breath caught, the years of absence dissolving in her gaze. You came. You asked me to, he replied, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. Emma hesitated, then stepped into an awkward hug, her frame tense before softening. I wasn't sure you'd show, she whispered. I'll always show up for you, Emma, Jack said, his words heavy with unspoken promises. Her eyes glistened, but before she could respond, a shadow loomed. Greg Palmer's voice cut through the music, smooth but sharp. Emma, the Carltons want to toast your birthday. His tailored suit and silver hair screamed power as he positioned himself between Jack and Emma, his back to her. Sullivan, he said, his smile cold. Didn't expect to see you here. This event's for family. Jack met his gaze. I'm Emma's father. That qualifies. Greg's eyes narrowed, his charm slipping. A technicality. You don't belong in this world. Rachel joined them, her face paling as she saw Jack. Jack, please, she said, her voice tight. Don't cause trouble. Jack's voice was calm but firm. I'm here for my daughter, Rachel. Nothing else. Greg stepped closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You're a nobody, Sullivan. A washed-up electrician who couldn't keep his wife. Emma doesn't need you dragging her down. The words landed like blows, and Jack's fists twitched, but he stayed still, his face a mask. Nearby guests hushed, their eyes darting to the scene. Emma's face flushed, caught between her stepfather and father. "Greg, stop," she said, her voice trembling. Greg ignored her, his smile cruel. "Leave, Jack, before you embarrass Emma more than you already have." Jack's eyes locked on Greg's, the air crackling with tension. "The only embarrassment here is you," he said quietly, each word a warning. Greg's face darkened, but before he could retort, Jack turned to Emma. "I'll be here when you're ready to talk." He walked away, the weight of Greg's taunts and Emma's silence trailing him like a storm. Jack Sullivan stood rigid in the glittering haze of Silver Fork Tavern, the jazz quartet's notes fading under the weight of Greg Palmer's venomous words. The gala for Emma's 25th birthday had become a battlefield, and Greg, with his tailored suit and predatory smile, relished his role as victor. "You're a failure, Sullivan," Greg sneered, his voice loud enough to silence nearby guests. "A broke electrician who lost his family because he couldn't measure up. Emma's mine now, her real father figure." The words sliced through Jack, each one a dagger aimed at the life he'd built and lost. Emma stood frozen beside her boyfriend, Ryan, her hazel eyes darting between Greg and Jack, her silence louder than any protest. Jack's fists clenched, but his face remained a stone mask, the discipline of Lucas Kane, the man he'd buried, keeping him anchored. Greg stepped closer, emboldened by Jack's stillness. "What's wrong, Jack? Nothing to say?" Just like when Rachel walked out. "You're pathetic." The crowd formed a subtle circle, their whispers buzzing like flies. Emma's face flushed, her lips parting as if to speak, but Greg raised a hand, cutting her off without a glance. "Stay out of this, Emma. Your mother and I handle the riffraff." Rachel, hovering nearby, touched Greg's arm, her voice strained. "Greg, enough." But Greg shook her off, his eyes locked on Jack. "Go back to your sad little apartment, Sullivan. Emma doesn't want you here." The final insult landed, and something shifted in Jack's eyes. A flicker of the predator Lucas Kane had been, cold and unyielding. Jack's hand slipped into his pocket, fingers brushing the burner phone. He stepped back, creating distance from Greg's towering presence, and dialed Vincent Holt. The line crackled, then connected. "It's me," Jack said, his voice low, barely audible over the party's hum. "Launch Operation Eclipse, full scope, now." A pause, then Vincent's gravelly voice. "You sure, Lucas? This is no turning back." "Do it," Jack replied, ending the call. The phone slid back into his pocket, its weight a promise of ruin. Operation Eclipse, years of gathered intel on Greg's shady deals, hidden accounts, and bribed officials, would now unravel the man who'd stolen his family. Jack turned, his boots echoing on the polished floor as he headed for the exit, ignoring the stares and murmurs rippling through the crowd. Rachel's heels clicked behind him, her voice desperate as she caught up in the tavern's foyer. "Jack, wait!" He paused, not turning, his back a wall of restraint. "That was uncalled for," she said, her breath uneven. "Greg's just protective of Emma." Jack spun to face her, his eyes piercing. Protective? Or scared I'll remind her who her real father is? Rachel flinched, her silk dress catching the light, a stark contrast to the exhaustion in her face. "You don't understand," she said. "This life, it's complicated." Jack's laugh was bitter. "Complicated? You left me for his money, Rachel. You fed Emma lies about me being unstable, worthless. Was that complicated too?" Rachel's eyes glistened, but her voice hardened. "I did what was best for Emma. Greg gave her opportunities you never could." Jack stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Best for her, or for you? I've watched Greg for years, Rachel. Every dirty deal, every lie. You think you're safe in his world?" Her face paled, a crack in her polished facade. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jack studied her, the woman he'd loved for 19 years, now a stranger. "You'll see soon enough," he said, turning away. Tell Greg to check his phone. Things are about to get complicated for him. As Jack stepped into the cool Boise night, his phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. Phase 1 initiated. Palmer's investors alerted. Expect fallout by morning. Jack pocketed the device, his breath visible in the crisp air. Behind him, the tavern's glow pulsed, but chaos was brewing inside. A man in a suit, Ryan's father, a local tech mogul, strode out, phone pressed to his ear, his face ashen. "This can't be right," he muttered, glancing back at the tavern. Jack's lips twitched, the ghost of Lucas Kane savoring the first domino's fall. Greg had crossed a line, humiliating him before Emma, claiming her as his own. Now, the man who'd dismissed Jack as a nobody would learn what Lucas Kane could do. Jack climbed into his truck, the engine roaring to life. The game had begun. Jack Sullivan sat in the corner booth of Bluebird Cafe, a Boise diner where the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the hum of morning regulars. Sunlight filtered through smudged windows, casting shadows across his weathered face, but his eyes burned with the focus of Lucas Kane. The man he'd been before Rachel, before Emma, before he traded a life of calculated destruction for a toolbox and a quiet home. Last night's gala at Silver Fork Tavern, Greg Palmer's vicious taunts, Emma's crushing silence, Rachel's hollow excuses, had shattered the fragile restraint Jack had clung to for 8 years. Operation Eclipse, launched with a single call to Vincent Holt, was now in motion, and there was no turning back. Jack sipped his black coffee, the bitter taste grounding him as he waited. 20 years ago, Lucas Kane was a phantom in the world of high finance, a strategist who dismantled empires without firing a shot. In a dimly lit Chicago loft, he'd worked with Cole Ramsey, his only trusted ally, to topple a corrupt CEO named Warren Holt, no relation to Vincent. Warren's empire, built on insider trading and union busting, had seemed untouchable until Lucas cracked his encrypted emails, leaked proof to regulators, and triggered a media storm. By the time Warren's stock crashed, Lucas and Cole had vanished, leaving no trace. The thrill of that hunt, the precision of ruin, had defined Lucas until he met Rachel at a Boise diner, her laughter pulling him into a life he'd never imagined. But Greg's world, built on lies and stolen bonds, had awakened the shadow Jack thought he'd buried. The cafe's bell jingled, and Vincent Holt slid into the booth, his gray hair and scarred knuckles a testament to decades in the shadows. "You look like hell, Lucas," Vincent said, signaling for coffee. Jack's lips twitched, but his voice was steel. "It's Jack now, and I'm fine." Vincent studied him, his eyes sharp despite his age. Operation Eclipse is live. Emails from Palmer's private server, offshore accounts, bribed city officials, hit the inboxes of his top investors at dawn. Local news is sniffing around. "You sure about this?" Jack leaned forward, his voice low. "Greg took my family, Vincent. He humiliated me in front of Emma, claimed her as his. He's done." Vincent stirred sugar into his coffee, his expression grim. "Palmer's not a small fish. His real estate empire's tied to half the power players in Idaho. You're not just burning him, you're lighting a match in a gas leak. What about Emma?" Jack's jaw tightened, the mention of his daughter cutting deeper than he'd admit. "She's not part of this. I'll shield her." Vincent snorted. "You think she won't get caught in the fallout? She's in Palmer's world now. Her boyfriend's dad is one of his investors. This hits them all." Jack's fingers gripped the mug, the ceramic warm against his calloused palms. "Emma will understand when she sees who Greg really is." Vincent leaned back, his voice dropping. "You were the best, Lucas. Surgical. But this feels personal. That's dangerous." Jack's eyes darkened, memories of the gala flashing. Greg's sneer, Rachel's betrayal, Emma's silence. "It is personal," he said. "Greg built his life on my ruins. Now I'm taking it back." He slid a USB across the table, its contents a blueprint of ruin. Forged documents to spook Greg's lenders, doctored text to fracture his partnerships, and a whistleblower tip to the Idaho statesman. "Phase 2, Jack said. "Leak the rest by noon. Keep my name out." Vincent pocketed the drive, his face unreadable. "Hope you know what you're doing, Lucas. Once this breaks, there's no hiding." Jack left the cafe, The Boise morning crisp against his skin. His phone buzzed. Cole Ramsey checking in. Heard you're back in the game. Palmer's a snake, but don't lose yourself. Jack ignored the message, his truck's engine rumbling as he drove past Boise's modest skyline. Lucas Kane had been a weapon, honed to destroy without remorse. But Jack Sullivan was a father, driven by love and loss. Greg had stolen his daughter, poisoned her against him, and mocked his existence. Now, Operation Eclipse would strip Greg bare, his wealth, his power, his lies. But as Jack glanced at a photo of Emma taped to his dashboard, her 14-year-old smile frozen in time, doubt gnawed at him. Would she forgive him when the storm hit? Or would Lucas Kane's shadow consume them both? Jack Sullivan stood at his apartment window in Boise, Idaho, the city's modest skyline blurred by a late November drizzle. The faint hum of traffic below couldn't drown out the storm he'd unleashed with Operation Eclipse. 2 weeks had passed since his meeting with Vincent Holt at Bluebird Cafe, and Greg Palmer's real estate empire was crumbling. The Idaho Statesman had published a scathing expose on Greg's offshore accounts and bribed city officials, sparking a frenzy. Investors, spooked by leaked emails and forged documents, pulled funding from his flagship project, a luxury condo tower on Boise's riverfront. Social media buzzed with the Palmer fraud, and Greg's face, once a staple of Boise's elite, was now a punchline. Jack's burner phone lay silent on the counter, but Vincent's last text lingered. Phase 2 complete. He's bleeding. Phase 3? Jack hadn't replied. Not yet. Inside, Jack's one-bedroom apartment felt smaller, the weight of his actions pressing against the faded walls. A half-empty bourbon bottle sat beside a photo of Emma at 14, her smile a ghost from their Boise River Festival days. Greg's taunts at Silver Fork Tavern, calling Jack a broke electrician, claiming Emma as his, fueled his resolve, but Emma's silence since the gala gnawed at him. Lucas Kane, the strategist who'd toppled titans like Warren Holt, thrived on control, but Jack Sullivan, the father, wrestled with doubt. Had he gone too far? A knock at the door snapped him from his thoughts. He checked his security app. Emma stood outside, her face pale, rain-soaked hair clinging to her shoulders. Jack opened the door, his heart lurching. Emma? She stepped inside, her silver bracelet, a gift from Rachel, glinting under the dim light. "Why didn't you answer my calls?" she demanded, her voice cracking. "Everything's falling apart." Jack gestured to the couch, his throat tight. "What's going on?" Emma sank down, her hands twisting. "Greg's a mess. His investors bailed, his tower's dead, and the news won't shut up about fraud. Mom's losing it, fighting with Greg, canceling her charity galas. She thinks we're ruined." Her hazel eyes, so like his, shimmered with tears. "I didn't know who else to go to." Jack sat across from her, his hands clasped to hide their trembling. Lucas Kane's precision had orchestrated this chaos. Every leaked email, every panicked investor. But Jack's heart ached at Emma's pain. "I'm sorry you're caught in this," he said, his voice low. Emma's eyes narrowed. "You don't get it, Dad. Greg's been good to me. He's not perfect, but he's family now. Why's this happening?" The accusation in her voice cut deep, and Jack fought the urge to confess. "Sometimes people build their lives on lies," he said carefully. "When the truth comes out, it hurts everyone." Emma shook her head, frustration spilling over. "You sound like you're glad. Did you ever care about us? Or was Mom right, that you're just, unstable?" The word stung, a dagger from Rachel's playbook. Jack's jaw clenched, memories of Greg's sneers and Rachel's betrayal flashing. "I cared enough to show up for you," he said, his voice steady but raw. "I'm here now, aren't I?" Emma's tears fell, her voice softening. "Then help me fix this. Talk to Greg. He'll listen to you." Jack's chest tightened. Help Greg, the man who'd stolen his family, poisoned Emma against him? Yet Emma's plea, raw and desperate, stirred the father in him. "I can't fix Greg's mistakes," he said finally, "but I'll always be here for you." Emma stood, her face hardening. "That's not enough, Dad. She stormed out, the door slamming like a gunshot. Jack poured a bourbon, his hands shaking. His phone buzzed. Vincent again. Palmer's desperate. Meeting creditors tomorrow. Push phase 3? Jack stared at the photo of Emma, her smile a fading memory. Lucas Kane urged him to finish Greg. Expose his final secret, a land deal tied to a corrupt senator, and bury him for good. But Emma's words echoed. He's family now. Jack's resolve wavered, the line between justice and vengeance blurring. Outside, Boise's rain fell harder, mirroring the storm within. Greg's downfall was close, but at what cost to Emma? And when she learned her father was the architect of this ruin, would she ever forgive him? Jack Sullivan stood in the skeletal remains of a Boise construction site, the wind whistling through rusted beams under a gray December sky. The abandoned lot, once slated for one of Greg Palmer's failed condo projects, was a fitting stage for what was coming. Days had passed since Emma's tearful visit to his apartment, her plea to help Greg echoing in his mind. Operation Eclipse had gutted Greg's empire. Investors gone. The Idaho statesman relentless with Howner Palmer fraud headlines. His luxury tower a pipe dream. Yet Jack's victory felt hollow. Emma's words, he's family now, a wound that wouldn't heal. His burner phone buzzed with Vincent Holt's warning. Palmer's sniffing around. He suspects you. Watch your back. Jack pocketed the device, his electrician's boots crunching gravel as headlights pierced the dusk. Greg's black SUV rolled up, its engine cutting through the silence. He stepped out, his tailored coat out of place amidst the debris, his silver hair disheveled. Sullivan, Greg snarled, his voice raw with rage. You think you can hide? I know you're behind this. Every leak, every headline. Jack stood his ground, his face a mask of calm, Lucas Kane's discipline steadying him. You're grasping, Palmer, he said coolly. Your lies caught up with you. Greg closed the distance, his eyes wild. Don't play dumb. My lawyers will bury you. My friends in the mayor's office, the banks, they'll make sure you're nothing but a smear on this town. His voice dropped, venomous. Leave Emma alone, or I'll destroy you. Jack's hand slid into his jacket, pulling out a small recorder. He pressed play, and Greg's voice crackled through, a late-night call, bribing a state senator for a land deal. One copy's with a friend, Jack said, his voice low and lethal. Step near Emma again, and it's on every news desk in Idaho by dawn. Greg's face drained of color, his bravado crumbling. You're bluffing, he stammered, but his eyes betrayed fear. Jack stepped closer, his gaze unyielding. You stole my family, humiliated me, turned my daughter against me. This is your reckoning. Walk away from Emma or I'll burn what's left of your life to ash. A car door slammed in the distance, and Rachel emerged from the shadows, her face pale, her coat flapping in the wind. Jack, stop, she cried, rushing toward them. This has gone too far. You're tearing us apart. Jack's chest tightened, but his voice stayed cold. He tore us apart, Rachel. You chose him. Rachel's eyes glistened, her voice breaking. I'm begging you for Emma. She's hurting. If you love her, stop this. Jack's jaw clenched, memories of Emma's tears flashing, her plea, her anger. Greg's crimes aren't my doing, he said. He built this house of cards. It's falling, and Emma needs to see the truth. Rachel grabbed his arm, desperate. You'll destroy her too. She still loves you, Jack. Don't take that away. Before Jack could respond, a rustle came from the nearby scaffolding. Emma stepped out, her face a mix of shock and betrayal, her phone clutched like a lifeline. Dad? She whispered, her voice trembling. It's you? You did this to Greg? To us? Jack froze, the weight of her words crushing him. Emma, he started, but she cut him off, tears streaming. You lied to me. I asked for your help and you're the one breaking everything. She turned and ran, her footsteps echoing in the desolate lot. Greg seized the moment, his smirk returning. Looks like you're the one losing her now, Sullivan. Jack's fists twitched, but he held back, Lucas Kane's focus keeping him from snapping. Rachel sank to her knees, sobbing. You've ruined us, Jack. He turned away, the recorder heavy in his pocket, Emma's betrayal heavier in his heart. The Boise wind howled, carrying the first snowflakes of winter. Greg's empire was in ruins, but so was Jack's hope of reclaiming his daughter. As he walked to his truck, Vincent's text glowed. Phase 3 ready. Your call. Jack didn't reply. The reckoning had come, but the cost was more than he'd imagined. Jack Sullivan sat on a bench in Boise's Julia Davis Park, the winter air biting his knuckles as joggers and dog walkers blurred past. Bare trees framed the Boise River, its flow a quiet contrast to the chaos in his heart. 3 weeks had passed since Emma fled the construction site. Her tear-streaked face, "You lied to me," burned into his memory. Operation Eclipse had obliterated Greg Palmer's empire. His condo tower was scrapped, Sizer Palmer fraud trended, and creditors hounded him. But the cost was Emma. She'd blocked his number, ignored his texts, and left his apartment voicemails unanswered. Jack, once Lucas Kane, the strategist who felled giants like Warren Holt, now faced a foe he couldn't outmaneuver: his daughter's broken trust. Last night, Jack had poured his soul into an email to Emma, sent from a new account to bypass her filters. He wrote of Rachel's betrayal 8 years ago, her affair with Greg, her lies painting Jack as unstable. He recounted Greg's taunts at Silver Fork Tavern, claiming Emma as his, and the years Jack spent watching Greg's corrupt deals waiting to strike. "I did this to protect you," he wrote, "to show you who Greg really is. I love you, Emma. Always." He attached a photo from her 10th birthday, the two of them laughing at a Boise Hawks game, hoping it might stir her heart. But his inbox stayed empty, her silence louder than any reply. Footsteps crunched behind him, and Rachel appeared, her scarf tight against the wind, her face etched with fury. "You've gone too far, Jack," she snapped, stopping short of the bench. "Emma won't eat, won't talk. She's a wreck because of you." Jack stood, his breath visible in the cold. "She's a wreck because you chose a crook over her father," he said, his voice steady but sharp. Rachel's eyes flared. "Don't you dare. I gave her a life you couldn't. Stability. Opportunities. You're the one who blew it up with your vendetta." Jack stepped closer, his gaze piercing. "Stability? You mean Greg's dirty money? You fed her lies about me, Rachel. You let him steal her. This is on you." Rachel's hands shook, but her voice rose. "She hates you now, Jack. You think your little email will fix this? You've destroyed her world." Jack's chest tightened, the weight of Emma's rejection crushing him. "I told her the truth," he said. "Something you never did. You picked Greg's wealth over our family. Own it." Rachel's face crumpled, tears welling. "I did it for her," she whispered. "You were gone, Jack. Always working, always distant." Jack's laugh was bitter. "Distant? I was building a life for us. You just wanted a bigger one." He turned away, the park's chill seeping into his bones. "Tell Emma I'm here when she's ready." As Rachel stormed off, Jack's burner phone buzzed. Vincent Holt. "Palmer's hired a PI, guy named Travis Cobb. He's tailing you. Careful." Jack scanned the park, spotting a man in a gray hoodie lingering by the rose garden, his phone angled oddly. Greg was fighting back, digging for leverage to counter Operation Eclipse. Jack's jaw clenched, Lucas Kane's instincts flaring. He'd known Greg wouldn't go quietly, but the PI meant danger, exposure, maybe worse. Vincent's next text followed. "Phase 3 still on hold? Palmer's weak, but he's not done." Jack didn't reply, his mind on Emma. He'd launched this war to save her from Greg's lies, but now she saw him as the villain. Jack walked to his truck, the photo of Emma at 10 still in his wallet, a fading tether to the daughter he'd lost. He'd try again, another email, a letter, anything to reach her. But as he drove past Boise's quiet streets, doubt gnawed. Could he mend what he'd broken, or would Lucas Kane's shadow, cold, relentless, cost him Emma forever? Across town, Greg met with Cobb, plotting his next move. The fracture between Jack and Emma was deep, but the war was far from over. Jack Sullivan stood in the shadowed belly of a derelict Boise warehouse, the air thick with dust and the faint hum of a distant train. Rusted machinery loomed like ghosts under flickering fluorescent lights, a fitting arena for the endgame of Operation Eclipse. Days had passed since Rachel's confrontation in Julia Davis Park. Her accusations, "You've destroyed her world," echoing alongside Emma's silence. Greg Palmer's empire was in ashes. Deutsches Palmer fraud dominated headlines, creditors circled, and his name was poison in Boise's elite circles. But Emma's rejection, her blocked number, and unanswered emails cut deeper than any victory. Jack's burner phone buzzed. "Vincent Holt. Cobb's got something. Palmer's coming for you. Warehouse on Front St. tonight." Jack gripped his flashlight. Lucas Kane's instincts razor-sharp as footsteps echoed outside. The warehouse door creaked, and Greg Palmer stepped in, his once-polished suit rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. Travis Cobb, the PI, flanked him, a manila folder in hand. "Sullivan," Greg growled, his voice a mix of fury and desperation. "I've got you." Cobb dug up your past. "Lucas Kane, the ghost who tanked Warren Holt. One call to the feds, and you're done." Jack's face stayed stone, his heart steady. "You're out of moves, Palmer," he said coolly. Greg sneered, tossing the folder at Jack's feet. Photos of a Chicago loft. Old bank records. A grainy shot of Jack with Cole Ramsey. "Drop your little game or I burn your life down." Jack kicked the folder aside, pulling a USB from his jacket. "You're not the only one with dirt," he said, his voice low and lethal. He tossed it to Cobb, who plugged it into a laptop. A forged contract loaded. Greg's signature on a deal siphoning millions from a Boise bank, doctored to look airtight. "One email sends this to the DA," Jack said. "You expose me, I expose you. We both lose. Or you shut up and walk away." Greg's jaw dropped, his bravado crumbling. "You bastard," he hissed, but his hands shook. Cobb glanced at Greg, uneasy. "He's not bluffing, boss." Jack's eyes locked on Greg's. "You stole my daughter, built your life on my ruins. Choose now, or we both go down." A phone rang. Rachel, her voice frantic through Greg's speaker. "Jack, if you're there, stop. Emma's falling apart. She needs you, not this war." Jack's chest tightened, but his resolve held. "Tell Rachel this ends with Greg's truth," he said. Greg silenced the call, his face twisting. "You're pathetic, Sullivan. Emma hates you." As if on cue, Jack's phone pinged, a text from Emma. "I read your email. You're a liar. Don't contact me again." The words gutted him, but Lucas Kane kept him upright. "This isn't about Emma anymore," Jack lied, his voice steel. "It's about you paying for your crimes." Greg lunged forward, but Cobb restrained him. "Not here," the PI muttered. Greg's eyes burned with hate. "This isn't over, Sullivan." He stormed out, Cobb trailing. Jack stood alone, the USB's weight heavy in his mind. Vincent's next text glowed. "Phase 3 ready. Senator's deal goes public tomorrow. Pull the trigger." Jack hesitated, Emma's text searing his heart. Rachel's call replayed. "She needs you." He'd started Operation Eclipse to save Emma, but now she saw him as a monster. Across town, Greg met a man in a black sedan, Ronan Tate, a fixer with ties to Boise's underbelly. "Find me something to bury Sullivan," Greg snarled. "No limits." Jack left the warehouse, Boise's night cold against his skin. Emma's rejection was a wound no strategy could heal, but Greg's gambit had failed. Phase 3 loomed, promising to end Greg for good. But at what cost? Jack glanced at Emma's photo in his wallet, her 10-year-old smile a fading dream. The war was nearing its end, but the stakes were higher than ever. Jack Sullivan leaned against the wall of the Rusty Nail, a dive bar on Boise's west side, the neon buzz of its sign cutting through the January fog. The jukebox played a mournful country tune, masking the tension coiling in his chest. Days had passed since the warehouse showdown. Greg Palmer's threat, one call to the feds, still ringing, matched only by Emma's text. "Don't contact me again." Operation Eclipse had gutted Greg. The Idaho Statesman ran exposés, Dashra Palmer fraud trended, and his empire was dust. But Emma's rejection was a deeper wound, her silence louder than Jack's victories. Vincent Holt's latest text burned in his pocket. "Tate's moving. Bar tonight. Ambush. Stay sharp." Jack sipped his soda, Lucas Kane's instincts scanning the crowd for Ronan Tate's men. The door swung open, and two roughnecks in leather jackets entered, their eyes locking on Jack. He'd expected this. Greg's desperation, Ronan Tate's muscle. Before they could move, Jack nodded to a man at the bar, Vincent, posing as a drunk. Vincent A.'s signal triggered a chain. Jack had leaked Greg S. forged contract to an FBI contact hours earlier, and agents were already closing in on Greg's office. The roughnecks hesitated, phones buzzing with panicked texts from Tate. "Wrong night, boys," Jack said, his voice low. They bolted, the trap collapsing. Vincent smirked, tossing Jack a burner phone. "FBI's got Palmer's scent. Phase 3's live without you pulling the trigger." Jack left the bar, the fog swallowing Boise's streets. His relief was fleeting. Emma's face haunted him. Rachel had called yesterday, voice breaking. "Emma knows you're behind everything. She's furious, but she's asking about Greg's deals. She's doubting him." Jack's heart had leapt. Doubt was a crack in Emma's wall, but a refusal to see him stung. He drove to Boise State University, where Emma studied, parking near her dorm. He'd written her a letter, left in her mailbox. "I never meant to hurt you. Greg's lies would have trapped you. Come to the quad at 7 p.m. I'll wait." At 7:15, the quad was empty, snow dusting the benches. Emma didn't come. Rachel's car pulled up, her face pale as she approached. "Jack, this has to stop," she pleaded, her breath clouding in the cold. "Emma's breaking. She's caught between you and Greg, and now the FBI's involved?" Jack's jaw tightened. "Greg set a trap tonight. Thugs, Tate's men. I stopped it. He's the threat to Emma, not me." Rachel's eyes widened, fear flickering. "Tate? Jack, you're dragging her into your world." She grabbed his sleeve. "If you love her, walk away. Let her heal." Jack pulled free, his voice raw. "I'm saving her from Greg's poison. She'll see it when he's gone." Rachel shook her head. "She might not, Jack. You're losing her." Jack's phone buzzed. "Vincent. FBI raided Greg's office. He's dodging, but Tate's not happy. Watch for blowback." Jack's mind raced. He'd paused Phase 3, the senator's deal, to protect Emma from Tate's reach. But Greg's desperation made him unpredictable. Emma's absence at the quad felt final, her doubt about Greg a faint hope. He needed to reach her, to explain before Tate's next move. Across town, Emma sat in her dorm, Rachel's words echoing. "Greg's not who you think." A news alert flashed, FBI probing Greg's condo fraud. Her hands shook as she reread Jack's letter, torn between betrayal and truth. Meanwhile, Greg met Ronan Tate in a dimly lit alley, his voice a snarl. "Sullivan's untouchable. Get him. Whatever it takes." Tate's cold smile promised chaos. "I've got a crew. He won't walk away from this." Jack stood in the quad, snow falling heavier now. Boise's quiet belying the storm ahead. He'd dismantled Greg's trap, but the war was escalating, and Emma was still out of reach. The final battle loomed, and Jack feared the cost would be more than he could bear.